you, Mr. Needham. I'll try to keep it short. I know it's getting late in the day. He said I could have at least an hour. So I'll try to do what I can. But I think what Bill was talking about with Coach Manafo, he'd get real excited and he'd come up and start pounding me on the chest. And this was kind of impress everybody. I have the dents there yet still. But what I really had to watch out for is I didn't get hit by the red man, that chewing tobacco that would spit out every now and then. But the part he's talking about with my nickname, I tried to devise something that a way of blocking when you led with your head, and you try to stick your head in that football. And I was always going on about stick your head in there. And at the time there was a famous wrestler called Bobo Brazil. I don't know if anybody remembers Bobo Brazil, but somehow somebody twisted that into Bobo Wennes because I tried to teach that head first, which today you can't lead with your head legally, and I know nobody teaches that, of course, in the area. But I would like to thank Mr. Needham, the committee, for this selection. I would like to congratulate all the other inductees into this Hall of Fame. It is certainly a great honor. It really is a great reward for all the time and the effort that we put in, and it just makes everything, feel so good and so wonderful. I was going to get up here today and tell everybody, if you hadn't already heard, that my son had done pretty well Monday at Duke University. And he was going to get out about Sunday or Monday. They wanted him there for about a week. And he was going to have to go through some radiation and chemo when he got home. But lo and behold, somebody yelled out, I think it was Mrs. Needham, yelled out and says, Richie. And I saw tears in her eyes. I said, what? And I looked around, and sure enough, there those little buggers were. They left early this morning, made it here, talked to the doctors, allowed them to get out a little bit early and come see us. So to those of you that I said he won't be here till Sunday or Monday, I'm sorry. I fibbed a little bit, but I can't help it. Thank you. When I started I graduated from Sandusky, went to Bowling Green, got my degree, and I went around and had a few interviews. And I happened to stop off here in Ohio and had an interview with Mr. McCormick. And he was very nice. We didn't talk too much about teaching. We talked a lot about golfing. He loved to golf, and I never golfed. But he told me how good it was, and he said, we got a social studies position open. Would you like to take that? And I said, well, yeah, sure, And he said, we also have a football assistant job open. Would you like to take that? And he told me how many hundreds and thousands of dollars I'd make coaching football. And I jumped at the opportunity. I said, sure, why not? So we started out then, and what has become a love affair at Huron High School with the Huron people, the students, and the athletes that continues to this day. I never ever expected to get into coaching. I didn't know much diddly about X's and O's, but I had to learn in a hurry because the first coach I had worked under was Frank Fiore, but he was there for 1 year. And then, of course, all the other coaches in line that I'll talk about in a little bit. But I just feel that I was very fortunate, very lucky, that sometimes things just turn out, the right way, that I ended up here in Huron. It's just something that I've cherished, and I'm just glad. I may not have made too many right moves in my life, but one of them was to come to Huron and be a coach. I feel that probably there are 6 groups of people that I have to thank, and it seems like all of us up here are thanking certain people for this award and for whatever else the benefits we get out of this situation. The first group I would just like to thank probably all of you that live in Huron. There is not another community, and I have been around and I have seen other towns, other cities, and other schools, and what their community does, and nobody can match Huron. And the people, it's a nice, closely knit community that helps the students, the athletes, the support. Who could ever forget those rides home in the bus after a big win in the tournaments in football with the fire department and the police department leading the way, with the sirens going, the flashers going, and the parties that we had to get away when we to Columbus and when we came back, and just so many things that you people in Huron have done that is beyond probably what is really necessary. And I think a special thank you goes out to the H team, the Booster Club, and you people that are from Huron, and just make this community as great as it is today. It's not necessarily the quantity, but I think the quality that counts, and you people have certainly done a wonderful job. The second group that we have to thank are the parents of the players. You know, you people that have sons and daughters that are now in high school or have been in high school, you've set the standard. We just, as coaches and teachers, get to polish everything off. And we have the fun of doing that, but the foundation has been set long before we get these kids. And I hear today stories about, well, you know, we send the kids to school, let the teachers set up the discipline and everything. That may be true in some cases, but in the most part, you people as parents are the ones that have set the standard, and you don't want anything less than the best for your kids, and it certainly shows for the children that go through Huron. Third group are the administrators that I have been fortunate to be through or gone through with, like the Mr. Folgers, Mr. Klein, Mr. Brown, who's been up here and done an outstanding job, all of them, to now Mr. Needham, the athletic director. Like he said, we work next door to each other. And I'll tell you what, that second floor, we had that thing under control. There was nobody going to mess around because they had double trouble. They'd have a couple 250-pounders coming at them, and that place would clear out in a hurry. But we had a lot of fun together. Bill is not only a good person, a good athletic director, but he's an excellent listener. There are many, many times I had to go in there and bend his ear and say, what do you think? How about this or that? And he was always willing to listen and help out, and I was very glad of that. And of course, Bill did mention that one day out in the football field, I was out there playing catch with our kids when the Needham family came marching across the field and said, is this the high school? This is where I'm going to be working this coming year. And lo and behold, I think we were the first ones to meet you guys when you arrived in Huron checking things out. So I tried to paint a pretty good picture right then and there so they wouldn't get scared and run off the other way. Probably also our new superintendent, Mr. Fox. He has also been one of my ex-students, and we like to kid each other and say it was only about a year or two ago, I think, that I had him in the classroom. At least we'd like to hope it was that long ago. But Mr. Fox has informed me that he did some special things for me way back when. He used to serve my prime rib at the Twine House. On Friday or Saturday nights, he was the server and the carver there, and he says, you better remember me, I always gave you an extra thick slice. Of course, I'm paying for it now. But thanks anyway, Fred. Also, I would like to thank Mr. Lynn Studer, who was the principal for much of my time at Huron High School, and the kind of, I don't know, my mentor, my helper. I like to get a little emotional sometimes, and I would sometimes make fun of other schools, opponents that we would play, teams in their schools, and I had certain names for some of these places. And there was one situation, we had a game one day, and where a lot of the opponents were sitting behind our bench, and they were heckling the heck out of us, and the girls and me. And I didn't care what they said about me, but when they started yelling at these girls, I got mad, and I started firing some comments back. Well, naturally, I didn't see Mr. Studer at the time, but he had his little notebook, and he's writing down things. And I get called into the office on Monday morning, and he said, you know, he says, you got to leave those things run off your back. You can't be saying these things. It just doesn't help out. We have to be nice and courteous to all our opponents and so on and so forth. So I didn't certainly like what he had to say, but I said, all right, because you're telling me you're my boss, I'll do that. So I got to tell you, Mr. Studer, I have never, ever made fun of any school since that meeting that we had. And by the way, that reminds me, I heard on the news this morning that they had a bad fire in the Bellevue High School library, and it destroyed about 20 books. And the real tragedy of the thing was that about 15 of them hadn't been colored in yet. So, I've been waiting to get that one. So I don't know, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. The fourth group that I have to thank, and sincerely, are the assistant and head coaches that I've worked under. And I've been very fortunate, as I said last fall at the football banquet, that I've really only worked under 3 head coaches. One of them for 1 year in Frank Fiore, and he left, I believe, went to Elyria. And then, of course, Tony Manafo and Tony Legando. And you talk about 2 extremes. These 2 gentlemen are it, but it goes to show you that there's more than one way to skin a rat. And Coach Manafo, well, first I'll mention the assistant coaches that I've been under. I've had a great time. These assistants, I've never ever really, I don't think, worked with one that I didn't get along with or that we didn't like each other. And there's some of them, you know, that had their nicknames too. And I could mention like TD and Z and Bubba, just to name a few of these assistants that some of them are still working, some haven't. But the assistants are certainly an integral part. And everybody says, you know, how come you weren't a head coach someday? You stayed assistant 35 years. I just, the way I liked it. It's just, I had a good time. I tried to be a good soldier, and we stuck in there. Also, I want to single out Ray Richards, whose family is here today. He was a very, very good, dear friend of mine. When I first started here in high school, I don't know if I looked like I was a lost soul or whatever, but he said, Sonny, you come with me. Exactly. Sonny, you come with me. I don't know if he knew my name ever or not. I was usually Sonny. Sonny to him. And he taught me the ropes and took me under his wing and told me what was going to happen, when it would happen, and how it would happen. And I miss that gentleman a great deal because I owe him so very, very much. And as his son alluded to it, I think I told him when we were out in the lobby there talking that one of the first things he taught me on Friday nights before the football game, he would take me down to the Knotty Pine for $1.25. You could eat all the perch that you could put away. And between the 2 of us, they had to send another boat out quick to catch more fish because that was something else. And he'd have his rum and Coke, and then we'd be off either to the game or we'd have to go scouting or someplace like that, and I really appreciated it very, very much. Another assistant that I have to single out is my assistant in basketball for many, many years, and that's Mary Taylor. She is by far one of the most competitive people I've ever seen. She hates to lose. She just does not want to lose a ball game, and if she can bury somebody by 25 points, she'll do it, rather than 2 points or whatever. She just won't quit until that horn sounds. And it almost reminds me of the story they told the other day on football with Woody Hayes, that several years ago, the Buckeyes were up that school up north, and they were playing them, and Ohio State had them by 30 points. And it was late in the 4th quarter, and Ohio State went in and scored with a matter of seconds left in the ball game. Well, instead of sending in the extra point team, Woody kept his first offense out on the field. And they went for 2 points, and they converted the 2 points and added 2 instead of 1. After the game, the reporters came up to Woody and they said, well, gee, you know, Woody, how come you went for 2 points? He said, it's because I couldn't go for 3. So that's kind of the competitiveness that she had, and if anything, instilled that into me, that you got to go out there, you got to be a competitor. You just can't sit back and let things go. The head coaches, first gentleman other than Mr. Fiore is Tony Manafo. He's here today. He was amazing. I have never ever, and I know I haven't been around that many head coaches, but I've heard stories, but I've never ever heard a pregame talk, inspirational talk, like Coach Manafo. He could he'd make you believe you could run through that wall. And those kids would get all excited, and that chewing tobacco would start flying all over the place. And I'm telling you, you just thought you could conquer the world. There was nothing going to be in your way. And of course, he brought the run and shoot to Huron, where today now we've sophisticated it a little bit. But he was a great man, a neighbor down the house. We had a lot of fun at our meetings. We always met in his basement, and we called it the dark dungeon down there because it was full of cigar smoke and everything else. I don't know how Betty could stand it. But we watched those old 8 mil, or no, they were 16, weren't they? 16 millimeter films up on a wall somewhere to break down all the opponents, where today they have computers and everything, and it's all very sophisticated. But there are a lot of good stories, I could tell you. And one day at the practice, he was just getting all worked up, and he swallowed his Red Man. He swallowed it, and a few minutes later, it all came up, along with lunch and everything else. So it's amazing. And then the other head coach that I'm fortunate in, and I think Tony was here. Is he gone? He had to go back? Oh, that's a shame. Too bad. Too bad there's things that got to go back. But anyway, Coach Legando also has been very helpful, very understanding. He's put up with a lot as far as what I do is concerned. But he is known as a disciplinarian. These kids, your sons in football, if you have any, won't get away with much. They may get away with a little something, but they're not going to get away with much. He is a very good disciplinarian, and they learn that going in. And anything else, he is just, he's organized like I've never seen anybody before. He's a stickler for detail. And of course, I get a little charge out of the new coach at Ohio State, who has the players after game go over and sing the alma mater with the Ohio State band. They've done this in Huron for years. After a football game, the kids all go over to the band and they sing the fight song. So, maybe they're copying things from Huron now, down there at Ohio State. But I want to thank those gentlemen. It's been a lot of fun. The fifth group I have to thank are the players that have played for me, both male and female. I owe everything to my players, and I just happened to come along at the right time. When Huron was rich in athletic and academic students and talent, there is a saying out there that you need the horses if you want to win. And of course, we had horses at Huron, and I could name quite a few of them, and I'm afraid to name a lot of them because I know I'll forget somebody. But we had the horses at Huron, and that made my job very easy. Sometimes you could just throw the ball out on the floor or put a ball out there in the field and let them go at it. I mean, they were that good. Anybody could have had success with these great athletes. I just had a knack of getting along with these kids for whatever it was, or it was nothing planned. It just happened to go that way. And a lot of these guys, like Coach Needham said, they love nicknames. And I could name a few that you probably can imagine, or you can know who the person is. I can say Woody. I can say Bulldog, Earthquake, Sticks, Cleats, Bubba, Magilla. And you probably know who some of these people are that I'm talking about if you've been around football. The girls' teams, too, on the other hand, have had just as many great athletes, and I was lucky to come along at that right time. Who could ever forget the 72-game winning streak, a state championship? Jill Harris named the MVP for not missing a foul shot in 2 playoff games down in Columbus, amongst other things. Kathy Brownell making that big shot at the end of the first half that brought us only 4 points down instead of maybe 8. Dee Cherry and Michelle Morgan for playing their usual solid game, and Lois Jenkins, who would step in there as a little sophomore and give us that spark that we really needed at certain times. But the real joy is seeing these girls and other young ladies grow up and become great citizens. You have to look up to the Caparini sisters, Amy Majoy, Kim Studer, Karen Shue, Sandy Slivka, to name just a few. You realize it is all worthwhile when you are coming around after a serious surgery in Elyria, Ohio, this summer, when you look up and there's one hand being held by Kristen Watt and the other hand is being held by Karen Hahn. It doesn't get, ladies and gentlemen, any better than that, and it's, to me, that's what it is all worth. It's the greatest feeling that a coach can ever have. You know, all that time and effort is all worth it. There's no greater thrill in the world than to see these girls and guys grow up, because this is what really is the rewarding part of coaching. So I want to thank all those players that I've had through the years. You don't know what that means and what companionship is. And then last but not least, I have to thank my family. All the aunts and uncles and cousins that have been here with their support and encouragement. To the grandmothers and the grandfathers, moms and dads, and to our sisters and brothers, to son Rich and his wife, Amy, and our two little grandchildren, Kaylee and Drew, to son Rhett and Christy, and to daughter Carrie and Jason. Thanks for allowing me to do my thing with no complaints from you. Many, many times I would be gone in the morning before you got up and get home late at night when you were asleep in bed. You have all made me very, very proud. And then finally, the biggest thanks must be for my wife, Karen. Little did she know, 34 years ago, what she was getting herself into. In fact, I didn't even have time. And believe me, her sacrifices and support were truly vital to my coaching career. The main thing is we have always been dedicated to each other while keeping a sense of humor about everything. When I was coaching, she raised our 3 children by herself, helped with schoolwork, attended all their games, and prepared meals for them. She just took care of everything. Karen wouldn't let me do many serious things around the house for fear I would injure myself, which is probably true. Plus, she is the greatest nurse on earth, as she has helped me in my time of need to get back on my feet after a sudden illness. If I came home grumpy from a bad game or practice, she would say, "You want problems? Let me tell you about my day." Any marriage is a trust. It is a foundation on which a family is built. And to this day, there is nothing in life I cherish more than Karen and our 3 children and 2 grandchildren. We are enormously proud of them, and we remain a close-knit family, and that is the way it has always been. Through it all, it has been a great ride. Karen has been a great wife, and we have a great time together. So I must thank her more than anything else. I would never have been able to stay in coaching without her support and understanding. And in closing, I would just like to say that someone would ask me, would I do it again? Would I spend 35 years in Huron? And I'll say real fast, without a doubt, you better believe it.